All right, let's talk about meiosis. So, meiosis is a process that's a little bit different from mitosis. We talked about mitosis before. Now we're on to meiosis. It's spelled a little bit differently. It's similar. The names are annoyingly similar, but they are different processes. So, first off, let's talk about where babies come from. Okay, so you probably know generally by now um, when sperm and an egg come together, one sperm plus one egg, their nuclei combine. So the sperm's nucleus and the egg's nucleus come together. Um, Sperm and eggs each have a half set of DNA. They combine to make a full set of DNA. Once you have that one cell, we have a bunch of cell division, and you end up with a baby, basically, whether it's a human or an animal or whatever it is. So you have half a set of DNA and half a set of DNA. They combine to form a full set of DNA, and then you do a bunch of mitosis, so the process we learned about before, to make every cell that is you right now, or every cell that is any animal right now. What about plants? I mentioned animals. Can plants have babies? Yes, they can. We'll talk more about it in the future. But basically, pollen is the plant version of sperm. And plants still have things that are essentially just called eggs. Still, same thing happens. Their nuclei combine, they do a bunch of mitosis, and then they end up being a plant. So, same thing, just plants and animals. All right, so some important vocab here. First off, fertilization. I would write this down in your notes. Fertilization is the union of male and female sex cells to form a zygote. So in this image, we've got the sperm in blue and the egg in this orange, and that shows them kind of combining. And so this egg is essentially being fertilized by the sperm. Once that egg is fertilized, it is then called a zygote. So a zygote happens as soon as the sperm and the egg combine. So we all started out our lives as zygotes. All right, let's talk about sex cells. You thought that I was just going to sex cells. All right, sex cells are eggs and sperm. They're produced in testicles and ovaries. So sperm are produced in testicles and eggs are produced in ovaries. Fun fact, ladies, we were born with all of the eggs that we're ever going to have. All of our meiosis happens while we are still in our mommy's bellies. Gentlemen, you produce sperm all throughout your lives. But ladies are eggs. We have all of them that we're ever going to have. And that, by the way, is, sorry, to go back to here, that's one of the reasons why at some point a woman, once she gets so old, can't really produce good babies anymore because her eggs are literally just old. Also, the uterus and stuff might, her body itself might not really be able to handle making a baby, just because it in itself is old. It can't support a baby and grow a baby anymore, but mostly it's because the eggs are kind of old at some point, honestly. But gentlemen, yeah, you're producing new sperm all the time. Anyway, something special about sex cells is that they have only one of each chromosome, whereas body cells have two of each chromosomes. So we talked before about how humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes for a total of 46. That's true in every single cell in our body except for the sex cells. In our sex cells, we only have 23 chromosomes because we only have one of each. We don't have 23 pairs, we just have 23. So, key difference there. So some vocab that goes along with that is that sex cells are haploid, meaning they only have one copy, whereas body cells are diploid, meaning they have two copies. So 23 chromosomes, and then the 46 chromosomes would be 23 pairs for a total of 46. So by the way, if you haven't written this down, this all should be written down in your notebook. So meiosis then, we haven't really talked about what meiosis is. Meiosis is the process of making sex cells. So far we talked about the process of making more body cells, taking a body cell, which has 46 chromosomes, and copying it to make a second body cell. Well, now what we're going to do is talk about how sex cells are made, cells with only 23 chromosomes. Okay, an important thing is that meiosis happens only in the testes and ovaries. We kind of mentioned how mitosis happens all throughout our bodies, anywhere, whether we need to grow or we need to heal an injury or we just need to replace dead cells or whatever. That's mitosis. That happens all over the place. Meiosis, though, is a special process that's similar to mitosis, but it only happens in the testes to make sperm and the ovaries to make eggs. All right. So here are the steps. I know there's a lot of them, but I want you to write them all down. And I want you to write them down, obviously, in this order. Now, one good thing, although there are 11 steps, they're pretty similar to the process of mitosis. We have interphase, prophase, 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1, cytokinesis 1, and then we just start again with a second round of it. Prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, cytokinesis. So it's sort of, it is very similar to the process that we already learned. Now, once you get all these written down, I want you to split them up. I have them in different colors here. If you have different colors, that would be great. If you don't have different colors, that's okay. But I want you to realize that this chunk is what we know as Meiosis I, and this chunk is what we know as Meiosis II. Okay. Now, something else to point out about this, we talked about how mitosis is a cycle. So imagine this Meiosis II wasn't there, and imagine that this is just mitosis. We had interphase, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, cytokinesis. And then I told you that after cytokinesis, cells went back into interphase. And that is true of mitosis. That is not true, however, of meiosis. Meiosis just goes this one way. It happens once. And once a cell goes through cytokinesis 2, it's formed, and that is all that it will ever be. That cell does not really go into interphase. Okay, so just realize that that is one more difference between mitosis and meiosis. Okay, so hopefully you've got that down. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and start taking notes on the steps. What I'll do is I'll give you basically very similar to your mitosis notes. I'll give you the name of the phase, a picture that I want you to draw, and then a couple of written notes. Now in the video, I'm going to go through these kind of quickly, just because you can pause the video and write them down at your convenience. So in interphase, basically like we saw in mitosis, we have DNA in chromatin form, and the DNA makes its second copy in here. Okay, so this cell is a normal body cell with 2 sets of DNA. So this is starting with it are 23 pairs for a total of 46 chromosomes, like any other body cell. Okay. Next up, we're going to go into prophase 1. Prophase 1 really is exactly the same as mitosis. I'm getting these names mixed up in my head now. So in prophase 1, make sure you put that 1 there. Don't just say prophase. This is prophase 1. If it was just prophase, we'd be talking mitosis, but we're talking meiosis. This is prophase 1. So DNA condenses into chromosomes, the nuclear membrane dissolves, and the centrioles move to opposite sides of the cell, just like we saw in mitosis. Okay. Now, metaphase 1 is where we start seeing some differences. And I want to show you this video, which will kind of show you, it'll illustrate this really important thing that happens in metaphase 1. It's going to be called crossing over. So yeah, here we go.
Homologous pairs. The word homologous means that the chromosomes are approximately the same size and they contain the same types of genes in the same locations.
By the way, when we say we have 23 pairs of chromosomes, this is like your pair of chromosomes. Okay, these chromosomes are identical. They have all the same sets of genes on them. Okay, so this is a pair of chromosomes, a homologous pair.
They're going to match up. It is during this prophase 1 that this amazing process occurs called crossing over. Now I know crossing over probably sounds like something very different, but this is actually a really awesome process because This is when the chromosomes, they're lined up in homologous pairs, and they have this way that they can transfer their genetic information and exchange it between each other. It's kind of like these chromosomes flop over each other and they do a little genetic information exchange here. It makes for what we call recombinant chromosomes, which can eventually contribute to the variety that we were mentioning that siblings can have even when they have the same parents.
Okay, so I'm just gonna pull up an image from this.
For homologous pairs, the word homologous means that the chromosomes are transferred their genetic.
Right here. So this is the main key here. We've done some crossing over. Like we said, this section right here is basically going to be, it's the same gene. This, for instance, might be an eye-colored gene. And this chromosome has its eye-colored gene in the same place as this chromosome does, or the hair-colored gene in this position, and this also has the hair-colored gene in this position, because these are identical chromosomes. However, they're identical as far as, eye color gene, hair color gene, height gene, whatever gene you have. But this eye color gene might say make your eyes blue, and this eye color gene might say make your eyes green. So there can be some slight differences. So during metaphase I, we have this really important thing that, like we said, was called crossing over, where chromosomes will actually swap some sections of their DNA to recombine and get different sets of traits on each chromosome. Okay, and like I said, that's how you and your sibling, although you're related and you're both half your mom and half your dad, you're different halves of each one, right? You may have gotten one gene, whereas your sibling got someone else's gene. Anyways, this is called crossing over. So in metaphase I, this is how I want you to draw your image. I know it's kind of annoying, but I really need these like multicolored chromosomes. Okay, that's a really important step here, is that these are multicolored now. Okay, we no longer have one red, or we no longer have two reds and two blues. We now have 4 chromosomes that are both red and blue at the same time. Here's another important difference between metaphase I and metaphase of mitosis. Remember, in metaphase of mitosis, we had one single file line of chromosomes going up and down the middle. In metaphase I of meiosis, however, we don't have a single file line. They're paired up. So here's one chromosome and here's its pair. So they're next to each other in a pair. Here's a chromosome. This is a pair of chromosomes that are paired up. They're still kind of down the middle, but they're paired up rather than just single file. So here's your notes. We've got crossing over. Tetrads is what we call the pair. So we've got kind of one set of DNA. This is a second set, which matches this set over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of genes that are essentially the same sets of DNA. Also, spindles reach from centrioles and attach to the nearest chromosomes. So these are the spindles, the little arms that the centrioles grow, and they attach to the nearest chromosome. Okay, so each centriole just grows the 2 arms to attach to the nearest chromosome. Right. Moving on to anaphase I. Anaphase I and metaphase I look very similar. In anaphase I, I really want you to illustrate that the chromosomes are now pulled apart from each other. There should be a big space in the middle. Whereas in metaphase I, they were kind of right next to each other. Anaphase I, they should have a space because they've been pulled to opposite sides. So in anaphase I, your only note is that tetrads are split up and move to opposite sides of the cell. So the tetrads are split up. One chromosome goes this way, the other chromosome goes this way. Okay. Telophase I. Remember this funny shape that we had to draw for mitosis? We've got that funny shape again. We've got our nucleuses, our nuclei coming back, and we draw that as like dotted nuclei. I want to keep saying nucleuses, and we've still got our centrioles there as well. Your one note for this is that 2 new nuclei are formed. Cytokinesis I then is you've got 2 cells. Each cell has a full nucleus, and it's also got two X's. Each one should have two X's, one big, one little, one big, one little, and they're like multicolored X's. So this is what our cytokinesis one will look like. In here, our note is that two new cells are formed. Okay, now that was all meiosis I. Now we essentially need to go back and do very similar things again, starting back again with, oh, sorry, I guess I forgot this note. I pointed this out earlier. Normally, if this were mitosis, after cytokinesis, the cell would then replicate its DNA and prepare for another cycle of mitosis. However, meiosis is different in that after cytokinesis, it does not go into interphase. Okay, so the centrioles do copy themselves, though. The centrioles do need to make a copy so that they can still divide again. So, going from cytokinesis 1, we're going to go right into prophase 2. So here's your prophase 2. Looks very similar to cytokinesis 1, except for that we've got two centrioles in each cell, and we've got our dotted nucleus. Because prophase, the nucleus always dissolves. Students always ask me, do I have to draw both cells? Yes, you do. Don't be lazy. It's important that you draw the whole process that we're going through here. You're going to get confused if you don't draw the whole thing, okay? Because your numbers aren't going to add up if you are lazy and only draw half of what you need to draw. Draw what I've got on the screen, okay? So there's your prophase 2. Two notes for them. Nuclear membranes dissolves and the centrioles move to opposite sides of the cell, just like we always see with prophase. Those are the typical things we see with prophase. Next is metaphase 2. Remember, meta means middle. So again, in both of the cells, now we have our single file lined up down the middle. Okay. And this time the spindles are reaching out and attaching twice to the chromosomes. So each chromosome has two spindles attaching to it. And there's your notes. Chromosomes line up in the middle and spindles reach from centrioles to chromosomes. In anaphase 2, you might be able to predict what it looks like at this point. This is where the chromosomes get ripped in half. This is more similar to what we saw in mitosis, where we had that X-shaped chromosome. It gets ripped in half in anaphase. Remember, they're split into sister chromatids, which I told you to maybe remember that Anna is a girl's name. Anna, sister chromatids. Chromosomes are split up and move to opposite sides of the cell in anaphase 2. Telophase 2, we're getting close to the end. I know, got all kinds of stuff to draw. We've got the two peanut-shaped cells now, and the nuclei are coming back, forming around those half chromosomes that we've got. And there's your note. 4 new nuclei are formed. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 nuclei here. And last but not least, cytokinesis 2. There's what we've got. This is what we end up with. This is why it's important that you draw the whole thing. Because 4 new sex cells, sperm or egg, are formed here. Okay. Now, what's important is that each of our resulting cells has half a set of DNA in there that does not go on to copy itself. This could be 4 sperm. Technically, it works a little bit differently with egg, but for our purposes, we're just going to say it creates 4 eggs, creates 4 sperm. There you go. There's your end of meiosis. A couple things to remember about meiosis. Comparing them, mitosis takes 1 body cell with 46 chromosomes, and it results in 2 body cells with 46 chromosomes. Okay? Meiosis, on the other hand, the process that we just learned about, takes 1 body cell with 46 chromosomes, and it makes 4 sex cells with only 23 chromosomes. So our sex cells have half as much DNA as the rest of our body does, because 2 sex cells have to come together to make 1 person, 1 animal, 1 plant, whatever. Okay? And one final thing that I think I put here. Nope, I guess I didn't. I swore I put it there. But just remember that meiosis only happens in the testicles and in the ovaries, where our sex cells are produced. So there's the end of your notes. I know that was probably a lot of notes for you guys. This is a kind of complicated process, but it's really important, and you do need to know about it. So please let me know if you have any questions, if anything doesn't make sense or whatever. Make sure these notes are in your notebook, and we'll talk to you later.